Tears, tension, and a family torn apart. Viewers, brace yourselves. Because what unfolded inside that courtroom has left fans speechless, and T.I. himself completely shattered. The once unshakable king of the South, known for his tough exterior and unbreakable pride, was seen breaking down in tears as his son, King Harris, received a crushing 5-year prison sentence. Yes, you heard that right, 5 long years behind bars. And the drama surrounding this moment is unlike anything we've ever seen before. The atmosphere was thick with emotion. Cameras flashing, fans screaming outside the courthouse, and whispers of betrayal echoing through the Harris family. How did things spiral this far out of control? What led to this shocking downfall of the young Harris heir? And why does it feel like this sentence carries more than just legal consequences? It carries the weight of years of unresolved family battles, from heated exchanges between T.I. and King right before sentencing, to shocking confessions whispered in court. The entire ordeal has left fans questioning whether this family can ever recover. Was this punishment too harsh, or was it inevitable? Stick around, because the details will leave you absolutely stunned. The silence inside the courtroom was suffocating, broken only by the sound of the judge's gavel echoing like thunder. Every eye turned toward King Harris, his face a mix of defiance and fear, as the words no one wanted to hear rolled off the judge's lips. 5 years in state prison. Gasps filled the room, and before anyone could process what had just happened, all eyes shifted toward T.I., the legendary rapper, who had built an empire off his grit and resilience, suddenly looked small, fragile even. His hands trembled as he gripped the bench in front of him, his eyes welling with tears he could no longer hold back. For years, T.I. had fought to protect his family, to keep them out of the same struggles he endured growing up in the streets. But in this moment, as King's fate was sealed, he felt powerless. King, dressed in a tailored suit that now felt like a cruel irony, smirked faintly as though still trying to hold on to the bravado that had carried him this far. But the cracks in his facade were visible. His lips quivered, his fists clenched, and he muttered under his breath, "This ain't right. This ain't right at all." The tension snapped when T.I. stood up, unable to contain himself. "Your Honor, please," he pleaded, his voice cracking. "He's just a kid. He don't deserve 5 years. Give him a chance to make it right. Don't bury my son alive." His words hung in the air, raw and desperate. But the judge's expression remained cold, unmoved. The sentence was final. Tiny, King's mother, covered her face with her hands, sobbing uncontrollably. Zonique, King's sister, wrapped her arm around Tiny, trying to steady her, but her own tears streamed freely. The family was crumbling right there in front of the cameras, and fans outside the courthouse were already in shock as the news spread like wildfire across social media. 5 years. For what? One fan shouted outside as reporters swarmed. "This is too much. They're making an example out of him because of who his daddy is." Hashtags began to trend within minutes, from hashtag Free King to hashtag Pray for T. As the world watched in disbelief, but inside the courthouse, emotions ran even higher. King turned to his father, his voice low yet sharp. "You always said you had my back. Where you at now, huh? You let them do this to me?" The words pierced T.I. deeper than any lyric or diss track ever could. "Boy, don't you dare put this on me," T.I. snapped back, his tears now mixed with fury. "I begged you to straighten up. I told you where this road was headed, but you didn't listen. Now look." The exchange stunned everyone present. Tiny cried out, "Stop it, both of y'all. This ain't the time." But it was too late. Years of unresolved tension between father and son erupted in front of the court, turning a sentencing into a spectacle. "You wanted me to be like you," King shot back, his voice rising. "All that talk about being real, about standing tall, and when I do, now I'm the problem. You can't have it both ways." The courtroom murmured with shock as T.I. stepped closer, pointing a trembling finger. "I wanted you to be better than me, not repeat my mistakes." I fought to give you everything I never had. You threw it all away. The bailiff stepped in, trying to diffuse the growing storm, but the damage was already done. The Harris family, once admired as a dynasty, was unraveling right before the public's eyes. Outside the courthouse, fans debated fiercely. Some blamed the system for coming down too hard on King, while others insisted his lifestyle had finally caught up to him. He thought he was untouchable, one critic tweeted. This is what happens when fame goes to your head. Meanwhile, supporters flooded timelines with prayers for the family. Worried about T.I.'s emotional state. Back inside, King's eyes softened for a brief moment as he looked at his father. Despite the anger, the pain, there was still a boy longing for his dad's approval. You think I don't care, but I do, he whispered, almost too quietly for anyone else to hear. I just wanted to be seen. Those words broke T.I. completely. His tears spilled openly now, his body shaking as he collapsed back into his seat. The strong, confident man fans knew from the stage was gone, replaced by a father who had just watched his son's future slip through his fingers. The judge ordered King to be taken into custody immediately. And as the bailiffs moved toward him, Tiny screamed, "No, please, let us have a moment." But her cries went unanswered. King was handcuffed, the metallic clink echoing like a death sentence through the room. As King was led away, he turned one last time to his family. "Don't cry for me," he said, forcing a smirk, though his eyes betrayed the fear inside. "I'll be back stronger. They can't break me." But the tremble in his voice told another story. The cameras captured everything, the tears, the anger, the heartbreak. Within hours, clips flooded YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, each one dissected by fans and critics alike. Some said King's words showed resilience, others claimed they revealed arrogance. But everyone agreed on one thing. This was one of the most shocking moments in hip-hop family history. Back at the Harris home later that evening, the silence was deafening. The family gathered in the living room, but no one knew what to say. I sat in the corner, staring at the floor, replaying every choice he had made as a father. Tiny broke the silence, her voice trembling. "Tip, we gotta stay strong for him. If we fall apart, he'll fall apart too." But T.I. shook his head slowly. "He already blames me. Maybe he's right. Maybe I failed him." Zonique jumped in, her voice firm through her tears. "No, Daddy, this ain't on you. King made his own choices. But he needs us now more than ever." The words hung heavy. Oh, they sparked something in T. He wiped his face, his expression hardening. "If they think this is the end of King Harris, they don't know us. I'm gonna fight for my boy, even if it takes everything I got." Tiny looked at him, her eyes filled with both fear and hope. "Fight how? The sentence is done. Tip, what can we do?" T.I. leaned forward, his voice low but filled with determination. "There's more to this story. They came down on him too hard, and I'm gonna find out why. Somebody wanted to make an example out of my son. And I won't rest until I know who." The room went silent again, but this time it wasn't despair, was suspense. Something deeper was unfolding, something bigger than just a prison sentence. And as the night grew darker, the Harris family prepared for a storm that was only just beginning. The room was heavy with silence, but beneath that silence, emotions boiled. I paced the living room floor, his fists clenched, muttering under his breath. Tiny watched him nervously, torn between wanting to comfort him and fearing what his anger might unleash. Zonique sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone as updates poured in, online clips of King being led away, headlines screaming about the 5-year sentence, and endless debates among fans. "They act like he's some kind of monster," Zonique whispered, her voice breaking. "He's just my little brother. They don't even know him." Double quotes T.I. spun around, his eyes red but blazing with determination. "That's exactly how they want it, Neek. They want people to believe King is out of control, reckless, beyond saving. But this sentence? Nah, this don't feel like no regular case. Somebody pulling strings." Tiny leaned forward, wiping her tears. "Tip, please don't go down that road. I know you feel like the world is against us, but right now we just gotta focus on King. He needs us to be strong, not chasing shadows. But I wasn't listening. His mind was racing, his heart pounding. He thought about the prosecutors, the cold way they painted King in court, as if he was beyond redemption. He thought about the judge's tone, almost rehearsed, like the decision had been made long before King ever stepped inside that courtroom. Nah, I muttered again, shaking his head. This don't add up. They came harder at him than they had to. 5 years. For what? I've seen worse cases walk out with probation. The room fell into silence again. But then a loud knock rattled the front door. Everyone froze. T.I. exchanged a wary glance with Tiny, then stormed over to open it. Standing there was a family friend, someone who had been close for years but rarely involved in their private matters. SHOCKS, a longtime associate. His face was tense, his eyes darting around as if someone had followed him. Tip. We need to talk, SHOCKS said quickly, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. And we need to talk now. Tiny looked uneasy. What's going on? SHOCKS glanced at her, then back at T.I. You ever wonder why the prosecutors came down so hard on King? Why the judge didn't even flinch when you begged? This wasn't just about what King did. This was about sending a message to you. T.I. froze. His chest tightened. To me? What you mean? SHOCKS lowered his voice. You've made enemies, Tip. You know that. In the industry, in the streets, even in politics. You speak too loud, you call out to many names, and people don't like that. They couldn't come for you directly, so they came for your son. Tiny gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Zonique's phone slipped from her hands and clattered to the floor. No, T.I. growled, stepping closer. Don't play with me like that, SHOCKS. If you know something, spit it out. SHOCKS hesitated, then leaned in. Word is, somebody pulled strings behind the scenes. King was supposed to get probation, maybe a year tops. But then calls were made. Prosecutors got pressured. Judge got leaned on. This sentence wasn't about justice, it was about punishment. And not for King. For you. The room erupted with shock. Tiny started crying again, whispering, Lord, what did we do to deserve this? Zonique's hands shook as she picked up her phone, already imagining the headlines if this truth ever came out. T.I. stood silent, his jaw tight, his mind flashing through every feud, every public call-out, every battle he had fought. Could it really be true? Was his son paying the price for his own enemies? Nah, he said finally, his voice low and dangerous. If that's true, then this ain't over. They picked the wrong family to play with. But before he could say more, his phone buzzed. It was a video call request from King. Already inside holding Dot, Tiny gasped and rushed over as T.I. answered. The screen flickered, showing King sitting on a narrow bunk, his face pale but his eyes still sharp. Yo, King said, trying to sound calm. Y'all good? Tiny burst into tears at the sight of her son. Baby, are they treating you okay? Are you eating? Do you need anything? King forced a smile, though his voice wavered. Mama, I'm straight. Don't cry. It's just 5 years. I'll do my time. I'll be back. They can't break me. T.I. stared at his son, fighting back tears again. Boy, listen to me. Don't you think for a second this is the end? I know what's going on, and I swear to you, I'ma fight this. I'ma get you out of there. King frowned. What you talking about? I leaned closer to the screen. They're using you to get at me. This ain't about what you did. It's about me. But I promise you, I won't stop until the truth comes out. For the first time, King's bravado cracked. His eyes softened, his voice dropping to a whisper. Dad, just don't forget me while I'm in here. I don't care about none of that other stuff. I just don't want to be forgotten. Those words shattered Tiny, who sobbed uncontrollably in the background. T.I.'s throat tightened as he swore, You, my son, I could never forget you. I'ma be right here every day until you home. The call ended abruptly, leaving the family staring at the blank screen. The silence was unbearable. Zahn Nique finally spoke. If what Shaka said is true, then this is bigger than us. But Daddy, you can't fight this alone. Double quotes T.I. Turned to her, his face set in stone. I don't care how big it is. I don't care who I gotta go up against. They came for my son, and now I'm coming for them. Tiny grabbed his hand, her voice trembling. Tip, don't do nothing reckless, please. If you go down, we all go down. But T.I. pulled away, his voice sharp. Reckless is sitting here and doing nothing while my boy rots in a cell. Reckless is letting them think they won. I ain't built like that, and you know it. The room was charged with fear and determination. Outside, the media frenzy was growing, fans arguing, critics piling on, and everyone wondering what T.I. would do next. But inside the Harris home, one thing became clear. This was no longer just a family tragedy. It was a war. And T.I. had just declared he was ready to fight. The next morning, the Harris household felt more like a command center than a home. The sun barely peeked through the blinds, but T.I. was already wide awake. Pacing, phone in hand, making calls to every lawyer, contact, and old friend he could think of. Tiny sat at the kitchen table, her coffee untouched, her face pale from lack of sleep. Zanique hovered nearby, worried yet determined to stay close. Shaka returned, this time carrying a manila folder. He placed it on the table, his expression grim. Tip, I dug around last night. What I found? It ain't good. Tiny flinched. Don't tell me there's more bad news. We can't take no more. Shaka slid the folder across. Inside were photocopied documents, court filings, and snippets of conversations pulled from sources he refused to name. Look here, he said, pointing to a highlighted section. The original plea deal offered to King was probation and community service. That was before some mysterious call came through to the prosecutor's office. Right after that, the deal was off the table, and suddenly, they pushing for 5 years. Double quotes T.I. studied the papers, his jaw tightening. Who made the call? Shaka hesitated. That's the thing. The name's been scrubbed from the official records, but street whispers say it came from someone close. Real close. Tiny's eyes widened. Close, you mean? Someone we know. Someone we know. Shaka nodded. Somebody who had access, who knew exactly how to twist the knife. They wanted to hurt you, Tip, and they knew hitting King would cut the deepest. The room went cold. Zonique's hand flew to her mouth as she gasped. But who would do that to us? To King? T.I.'s mind raced, scanning through faces. Old associates, even family members who had drifted away. The thought that betrayal might be sitting right under his nose made his blood boil. "I'ma find out, T," I muttered, slamming the folder shut. "And when I do, they gone, wish they never crossed me." Tiny reached out, her voice trembling. "Tip, I know you're mad, but you can't let this eat you alive. King needs us focused on helping him, not running after shadows." But T.I. shook his head. "Nah, Tiny. This ain't shadows. This is real. Somebody sold my boy out, and until I know who, none of us safe." As if the drama wasn't enough, the media circus outside the house grew louder. Paparazzi camped on the street, fans shouting messages of support, while critics hurled insults. Social media was ablaze with theories, some blaming systemic injustice, others pointing fingers at King himself, and a few wild ones claiming it was all a publicity stunt. They think this is a game. T.I. growled as he watched coverage on TV. They don't see the pain behind these walls. They just want a headline. Zonique put her phone down, her voice soft but steady. "Then let's give them the truth. Let's speak out. People need to hear our side, not just the system's version." Tiny shook her head. "No, that'll just make it worse. The more we talk, the more they twist our words. We need to stay quiet and fight this in court." The debate sparked tension in the room. But before it escalated, T.I.'s phone buzzed again. It was a text from an unknown number. "Stop digging or King's 5 years will turn into 10. His blood ran cold. He shoved the phone toward Shaka. "You see this? They watching. They listening. They trying to scare me into silence. Shaka's face darkened. That proves what I've been saying. Somebody powerful is pulling strings. They don't just want King in prison, they want you broken. T.I clenched his fists, fury rising. Well, they've learned today. I don't scare easy. Tiny's voice cracked. Tip, please. You already know how dangerous this is. If they can touch the system, what makes you think they won't come for you next? But T.I was already in motion. He grabbed his jacket, muttering, if they coming for me, then let them. But I ain't about to sit back while my son rots for something he don't deserve. Zonique ran after him. Daddy, wait. Where you going? He paused at the door, his eyes burning with determination. To find answers. And I must start with the people closest to me. Somebody in our circle sold us out. Tiny collapsed onto the couch, sobbing into her hands. Zonique hugged her tightly, whispering, we gotta trust him, Mama. He won't stop until he finds the truth. Meanwhile, inside prison, King was fighting his own battles. Stripped of the bravado he once carried so proudly, he now faced the harsh reality of survival behind bars. The first night had been brutal taunts from other inmates, guards treating him like a trophy, and the crushing loneliness of being away from everything he knew. Lying on his bunk, King replayed his father's words. They using you to get at me. The thought gnawed at him. Was he really just a pawn in someone else's war? He clenched his fists, whispering to himself, I won't break. I can't break. But deep down, the fear was real. Back on the outside, T.I.'s suspicions began to narrow. His first stop was an old associate, someone who had once been part of his inner circle but had grown distant in recent years. Rumors swirled that jealousy and resentment had been brewing. The confrontation was tense. Tell me straight, T.I. demanded, his voice low but deadly. You got anything to do with what happened to my boy? The associate laughed nervously. Tip, man, you know me better than that. I wouldn't touch your family. Yeah, we had our differences. But come on. 5 years? That ain't me. But I wasn't convinced. He studied every twitch, every hesitation, trying to read the truth. Betrayal had a smell, and he was certain it lingered close. Meanwhile, Tiny received a call from King's lawyer with another bombshell. The possibility of new charges being added if King got into trouble inside. They're watching him like a hawk, the lawyer warned. Any misstep, even minor, and they'll tack on more years. This isn't normal. It feels like a setup. Tiny's knees went weak as she hung up the phone. They're not just punishing him. They're waiting for him to slip so they can bury him alive. She whispered dots on NIQUE, held her tears in her eyes. Then we gotta protect him from out here. Even if we can't be inside with him. We gotta make sure he knows he's not alone. The family's pain was raw. Their unity, fragile. But one thing was clear. The war had only just begun. And as T.I. continued his search for the traitor within his circle, whispers of betrayal grew louder, setting the stage for an even more explosive confrontation. Night fell heavy over Atlanta, and the air outside the Harris home felt colder than usual, as if the city itself carried the weight of their turmoil. Inside, the tension reached a boiling point. T.I. had returned from his rounds of questioning, but the fire in his eyes burned hotter than ever. He dropped his jacket onto the couch, his voice rough from hours of heated conversations. I know it was somebody close. I can feel it. But they slick, hiding behind shadows. Sooner or later, they've gone slip. Tiny sat across from him, her nerves frayed. Tip, you scaring me? You're running around chasing ghosts. But meanwhile, King is sitting in a cell, scared and alone. What if you chasing answers and miss the chance to actually help him? T.I clenched his jaw, his frustration spilling out. Tiny, I ain't just chasing ghosts. I got leads. And if I'm right, this betrayal cuts deeper than we thought. Before Tiny could press further, the doorbell rang. Zonique peeked out the window and froze. Daddy. It's Uncle Rod. A hush fell over the room. Uncle Rod wasn't just family. He was Blood T.I.'s own cousin, someone who had been around for years. But lately, there had been distance, arguments over money, tension over loyalty.t.I. opened the door, and Rod walked in, his expression unreadable. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken accusations. "We need to talk," Rod said flatly. T.I.'s eyes narrowed. "Yeah, we do. Sit down." Rod hesitated, then took a seat. Tiny watched nervously. Sensing the storm about to erupt, "You've been quiet through all this," T.I. began, his voice sharp. "Too quiet. While my son's life gets torn apart, you ain't lifted a finger. So I'm asking you straight what you know about these calls that got made. What you know about why my boy got 5 years instead of probation." Rod's face twitched, his silence louder than words. Tiny gasped, Zonique covered her mouth, and T.I. leaned in, his voice low but lethal. "Don't play with me, Rod. Not about my son. Did you have something to do with this?" Finally, Rod exhaled, his voice heavy with guilt. "Tip, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I just wanted to put pressure, make them see you ain't untouchable. But I swear I didn't know they'd hit King this hard. This hard." The room exploded. Tiny screamed, "You, family? How could you do this?" Zonique burst into tears, her voice shaking. "His blood, Uncle. How could you sell him out like that?" T.I.'s hands shook with rage. He stood towering over Rod. "You telling me my own blood betrayed me? You sold out my boy to make a point." Rod's voice cracked. "You left me behind. Tip, all these years, you got rich, you got famous, and you forgot about the people who held you down. I was tired of being in your shadow. I just wanted you to feel what it's like when the system turns its back on you. But I never wanted King to get hurt like this." Double quotes, T.I.s. Fury boiled over. "You jealous? That's what this about. Jealousy. So you used my son as a pawn. You let them bury him alive just to get at me." Tiny rushed between them, sobbing. "Tip, don't. Don't let this tear us apart even more." But it was too late. The damage had been done. The betrayal cut deeper than anything T.I. had ever imagined. Rod stood, his shoulders slumping. "I'll leave. I know I can't fix this. Just know I never meant for it to be like this." He walked out, the door slamming behind him, leaving the family shattered. Silence suffocated the room. Tiny collapsed onto the couch, whispering our own blood. "Lord, help us." Zonique hugged her tightly. Both of them, crying uncontrollably. T.I. stood motionless, his eyes glassy but burning with fury. "They wanted to break me," he muttered, "and Rod helped them. But I swear on everything, this ain't over. King gone, come home. And when he do, we taking back everything they tried to steal from us." Double quotes, meanwhile, King was fighting his own demons. He sat on his bunk, staring at the wall when another inmate approached. "You the rapper's son, huh?" The man sneered. "Think you special? Let's see how special you are in here." King's heart pounded, but he refused to back down. "I ain't nobody's victim," he shot back. But deep down fear gnawed at him. He remembered his father's words, "Don't break," and clung to them like a lifeline. Later that night, King called home again. His voice was softer this time, almost broken. "Mama, Daddy, I don't know if I can do this. It's different in here. It's dangerous." Tiny broke down, begging him to stay strong. T.I., swallowing his own fear, steadied his voice. "King, listen to me. You, my son. You, stronger than you think. Don't let them see you sweat. Every day you make it through, you're proving them wrong. And I promise you, I'm working day and night to get you out. But what if you can't?" King whispered. T.is. Voice cracked, but he pushed through. "Then I'll be right here when you come home waiting. You hear me? You ain't alone. Not now, not ever." King nodded silently. Wiping his eyes before the call cut off. Back at the Harris home, the family huddled together. The betrayal still raw, the future uncertain, but through the tears and the heartbreak, a new sense of determination rose. Zon Nique, her voice steady despite the trembling in her chest, said, "They wanted to divide us, but we can't let them. We gotta stand together for King." Tiny nodded, her hand clutching T.I.'s. We'll get through this. As a family, T.I. looked at them both, his eyes still heavy with pain, but now glinting with resolve. They thought this would destroy us. But all they did was make us stronger. King gone, make it through, and so will we. This story ain't over. The night ended with the family sitting together, their bond bruised but not broken. Outside, the world continued to speculate, criticize, and gossip, but inside those walls, a vow had been made. They would fight, they would endure, and they would not let the system more betrayal define their story. And though the path ahead was filled with uncertainty, one truth echoed louder than all the noise. The Harris family, torn apart by a sentence, would not stop until King's freedom was restored. And so, as the dust settles on one of the most heartbreaking moments in hip-hop family history, we are left with more questions than answers. King Harris, a young man with his whole life ahead of him, now faces 5 long years behind bars, fighting battles the world will never truly see. T.I., once known for his unshakable confidence, has been brought to tears, torn apart by the weight of watching his son suffer a punishment many believe was harsher than it should have been. Tiny and Zanique, clinging desperately to hope, struggle to hold the family together while betrayal festers in the shadows. But what happens next? Will T.I. uncover the full truth behind the mysterious forces that pushed for King's sentence? Will the family survive the heartbreak of betrayal by their own blood? And most importantly, will King make it out stronger war? Will the weight of prison life break him down piece by piece? Fans everywhere are divided. Some say King brought this on himself. Others argue the system is targeting the Harris family to send a message. But no matter where you stand, one thing is undeniable. The pain, the drama, and the shocking twists have shaken the world. And now it's your turn to weigh in. Do you believe King Harris deserved this 5-year sentence? Or was it all part of a bigger plan to take down T.I.? Do you think the Harris family will ever recover from this betrayal? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear from you. Don't forget to hit that like button if this story had you on the edge of your seat. Subscribe so you don't miss the latest shocking updates. And turn on notifications because, trust me, this drama is far from over.